Thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's not really easy with the weather. There's a bit cold, you know. We all want to sort of come home and go and snuggle, you know. So thank you very much. This is the third talk, so I'm going to speak about the French way, the entire French way, the most popular. The first talk was about the last 100 kilometers, and then we did the Portuguese way last month. And there was a lot of question related to the Camino in general, to the beginning of the Camino, you know, in the Pyrenees. And there was also a question related to Rioja, the wine region. So we just say, well, we wanted to do something different maybe. And we just say, well, let's do the French way entirely. And let's bring this presentation from beginning to end. So if, for example, you wanted to do the Camino, basically the French way is what people think is the Camino, really. It's where most of the people would travel the Camino de Santiago on this French way, Camino Frances. You can decide which part you actually want to do. You want to start from beginning and do it in one go, 30 days, or do you want to do it in several sections every year after year, you know, maybe over 5-6 years. Or maybe you say, well, actually, I want to do just for a walk in the vineyard of the Rioja Wine Region, and therefore, you know, I would go around Logroño, or I would see Santiago, and I want to do 1 week at the end. So this is really the intention of this presentation, to give you an overview of the most popular, the most social, the most social walk. And then after, you can basically take whatever you want from this talk and just make on your more research on the Camino de Santiago to decide what you want to do. Next time we're probably going to do a talk about another way. I'm not sure which one we're going to do. Probably, actually, we did the northern way. We may do maybe the Portuguese, or really depending on what you want to see. So let me just give you a quick summary of what we're going to cover here. Now, it's my first presentation with this slide, so it's similar to what I've done before, but a little bit different. So let me know if there is any typo, you know, so I can change that. Now, brief history about the Camino de Santiago, a couple of practical information, the passport and the Compostela certificate, refugios, the hotel, how it works, the marking, you know, en route, the signposting, the different routes, the various routes of the Camino, just to give you an idea geographically, where is the Camino and where is the French way, what I'm talking about, and finally, French way through slides. So we go slideshow from the beginning in France to the end in Santiago de Compostela. Just a quick question, who of you have walking the Camino de Santiago already? Yeah, there you go. Anybody else? So like 3, 4, 5? Okay, no more. Okay, good. And okay, well that's good. I think the French way is a good start. If you want something, if you've never been on walking holidays before, you don't especially want to go on the walking holidays. You want to go in a sort of fun and social hike where you're gonna sort of go outside of your normal environment. It's a new adventure, it's a new challenge. It's easy enough, it's not, I mean, some parts are easy enough, and it's a real social and fun holiday, really, before all. Of course, you know, many different people would find different things from the Camino, you know. If you are, you know, you want to do it for religious reason, the Camino is good for you. If you just want to go outside and find a bit of spirituality, the Camino is good for you. If you just look for a good walk, good exercise, the Camino is also good. And if you look for a bit of crack, a bit of fun, well, the Camino, as I will explain you after, pretty good for that too. Now, brief overview of who I am and what I'm doing, okay, and then we'll put all of that aside. I'm the director of CaminoWays.com. It's a small tour operator based in the city center of Dublin 2, in Rigmon's Hill. And we basically organize walking and cycling
holidays on the Camino de Santiago, and we do it in comfort. So we book nice hotel, we transfer the luggage, we've got a holiday pack for you with the pilgrim passport that we provide. We do the holiday pack, we select nice hotel, as I said, we give you support before, during, and after the trek. And we do luggage transfer, so you just walk with a light backpack. Now, I've done the Camino at the beginning, the entire Camino, the French way, without company as well. So I know both sides. I know the refugios, the sort of almost free accommodation where you just, pop in, ask if there is a bed, and just go and give a donation. And I've done it with group through my company as well. So I'm not going to talk to you through my company services. I'm going to give you an overview of the Camino, what is the Camino, why you may be interested by the Camino, and then after you can make up your mind, about different parts of the Camino. That's basically it. So, oops, bullet point. Okay. Just a brief overview. The Camino de Santiago is one of the three main pilgrimages. You've got, obviously, the one of Jerusalem, where Christ, on the various sites of life of Christ. The symbol is the palm. So the palm is the symbol to the pilgrimage to Jerusalem. You've got the key. This is the key, is the symbol to the pilgrimage to Rome, where Peter has been buried on the Vatican. And you have the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela. That is the third most popular. It's where Saint James the Greater has been buried. So when you walk to Santiago de Compostela, religious or not, you are going to in direction of. You don't have to especially go to Santiago de Compostela, but you're going in direction of where it believes Saint James has been buried. Just to put Saint James into context, Saint James is one of the most important apostles. He's the Greater. There is also different James. There is the brother of Jesus. There is James the Lesser, his brother, and there is also that's James the Greater. James is basically given he witnessed first transfiguration of Christ. He's given the gift of Latin, and he goes to Iberia, what's now Spain, to preach a certain number of years, and he wants to go back to Holy Land where he's beheaded, and his friends are bringing back on a stone boat back to Iberia, but his body's lost, and we don't know where he is, and he becomes basically legend. From that on, in 820, he's an eremite from north of Spain, follow a star, and find his remains. And from now on, from the 9th century, pilgrims start flocking to Santiago de Compostela to pray on the remains. James become the symbol of the reconquest of Spain. He became the big symbol. He's the patron saint of Spain, and he's seen everywhere, in Spain during the reconquest against the Moors. So it's a really big symbol. And everywhere you travel to Spain, even now, you will see scallop shells on the wall, or even from south to north. It's really the big Christian symbol of the pilgrimage and the Christianity in Spain. So, quick introduction in terms of practical information. In terms of weather, well, you're crossing the whole country from center to west. You've got 800 kilometers. So you've got the Pyrenees where it's extremely cold in winter, like now, but even more. You've got snow in the Pyrenees in winter, obviously, up to February, early March. So from something like November to early March. So it's difficult to sort of set to go walking in the Pyrenees at the beginning. So you've got, you know, the mountain where it's really dry and cold in winter, and you get really lovely weather during summer. You get probably approximately 25 degrees in the mountains. Now, when you move on in central Spain around Logroño, Burgos, and Léon, it can get very cold in very warm in summer, approaching, you know, the 30 degrees or more in July, August. And then as you approach, again, the west of Spain, where is Santiago de Compostela, you get much milder weather, about 24, 25 degrees average even in July, August. So you've got roughly, you know, an average of around 24 degrees at the beginning and at the end in the Pyrenees, and in Santiago de Compostela at the beginning and at the end of the Camino, and in the center it's pretty hot in summer. The best months generally are considered to be April to June and September, October. That's when the most people are actually traveling. To get there, it's very easy especially from Dublin, I have to say. At the beginning, if you want to start from the beginning, you've got Biarritz where you can fly, you've got Bilbao on the north as well, you can fly to Santander with Ryanair. And if you are more on the middle, you've got Madrid to Léon, it's 4 hours by train, so you can really easily fly to Madrid. And then if you do the last 100, 200 kilometers, so 1 week or 2 weeks at the end, you can fly to Santiago de Compostela. There is like 3 flights a week with Aer Lingus, so it's convenient. Regarding the gear, it really depends how you do your Camino. If you do it organized with a company like me, for example, you will have a very light backpack. If you are doing it on your own, you may want to have something like 40, 50 liters where you can basically carry everything with you. In terms of, well, we can come back to that later, for the boots, but I generally recommend something light enough. Especially if you go from March to October, don't get into fully waterproof, huge boots that are, like 4 kilo each, because the Camino is generally 50-50 roads and countryside roads and footpaths. And when you're on tarmac, with waterproof boots, it's not the best. So I recommend like light boots, with, like fabric, not waterproof. We can talk about that after on question and answer. And in terms of safety, it's often a question that comes back, for ladies that want to travel alone, etc. The Camino is fairly safe. I have to say, you will find trouble if you go to Madrid, at midnight or at 2 in the morning, it's trouble, but the countryside in Spain is surely quiet, and it's not so much trouble. As well, there's a lot of people walking, so you're never really alone, I mean, a lot of people, it's not consistent, but you're crossing places that are inhabited. There is farms, there is people living around, so you're not completely alone, So, the passport, the Compostela, remember basically every single pilgrim from middle age would have left their own house, and they would have been given a letter from their priest from their parish saying that they are traveling en route to Santiago for a pilgrimage. And this passport is basically the heritage of that. So you carry your pilgrim passport, and every day you're going to get a stamp. So when you arrive to Santiago de Compostela, you get your certificate saying that you've completed the pilgrimage. So you need to do at least 100 kilometers at the end, okay, consistently. You can't do like 5 kilometers here, 5 kilometers there, You've got to do them consistently. Or 200 kilometers cycling, or 200 kilometers horse riding consistently up to the end. So the Camino, for example, the French way, and the French way is 800 kilometers, but it's 800 kilometers, but you can do every year like 100, for example, but if you want your certificate, you have to do 100 kilometers at the end, finishing in Santiago, you know. If you skip like 20 kilometers or 40 kilometers at the end, in theory, you can't get your certificate. So it's how it works. So this slide, the slide that you can see here is basically to give you a rough idea of the various routes of the Camino de Santiago. You know, different pilgrims would have taken different routes to Santiago de Compostela. The Paris and Tour way would have been for the people in the north, you know, like Belgium, Dutch, etc. You would have Vézelay more for the Germans. Le Puy would have been more for the Swiss, etc. And Arles would have been for the Italians. The English way would have been for the Irish and English coming to Santiago. So, for example, the Lord Mayor of Waterford, James Rice, would have traveled in the 15th century twice. He has traveled actually twice to Santiago de Compostela, and if you're interested, you can go to Waterford. In the Museum of Treasure, you will see some souvenir he brought back from his 2 trips to Santiago, and he would have sailed from Waterford to Bordeaux, and then he would have taken the boat again to A Coruña, roughly A Coruña or Ferrol, and traveled the rest by foot, which is 100 kilometers by foot, so 1 week, maybe a little bit longer at the time because of all the things he was carrying with him, and then finish in Santiago de Compostela. Various routes for various people. The Portuguese way starts in Lisbon, would also branch from the south of Portugal. The people coming from North Africa and south of Spain would have taken the Via de la Plata. And today, all those routes are practicable. They are all marked, and there is in most places there is refugios where you give a donation of 3 to 10 euro. You don't generally, you have to do. Not everybody gives donation. I met many people walking the Camino that had nothing with them, and for those people, they were not asked for a donation. For example, I met this doctor that was coming back from Santiago. He had nothing but a stick and a jacket. And I was just asking him, but how do you deal with that? How do you eat? How do you sleep? He said, well, I eat every day and I sleep every day. So he was just walking. He was getting into refugios. He slept in the refugios. He continued. And this doctor was from the east of France. So he was coming back on his way. So he did 3 months and he was going back 3 months again back to his home. Now we're going to talk about the French way. That's the yellow line on this map. It's the most popular. It's where most of the people travel. If you've never done really the Camino before, if you look for something, for something social and the real atmosphere of the Camino, what people think is the Camino is the French way. So the French way basically starts in a town called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port at the border with, it's in France, at the border with Spain. It's just at the foothill, it's in the Basque country, it's at the foothill of the Pyrenees. And then finish in Santiago de Compostela in the northwest of Spain. It's a Celtic area. They have bagpipe and they're very proud of their special dress and music and dance, etc. So it crossed the wall north of Spain. Across the Pyrenees, you've got the Rioja for people that like the wine. This is the best wine region in Spain, probably in Europe as well. You've got the Meseta after. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of that. You'll remember. And then the Leonese, that's just before Galicia. It's a couple of beautiful mountains. roundish and nice and adventurous mountains, and then you've got Galicia, another range of mountain, and then that's the most popular part that the people take, and it's also the most social as well. So 780 kilometers, an average of 30 kilometers walking. Obviously, if you do 50 kilometers a day, it's going to be shorter. And around 15 days cycling. Okay, the same as sometimes I have clients, they say, well, we want to do 100 kilometers a day. I say, well, that's no problem. Then it's a week, you know. It really depends on your ability. We've got also, like, I mean, I say we've got, but we've got itineraries of something like between 10 kilometers a day and something like 60 kilometers a day to suit everybody. When I speak about 60 kilometers a day, it's generally cycling, okay? And then after we've got cycling itineraries of 20 kilometers a day, or we've got walking of 10 and walking of 20 a day. You know, it's really possible to do anything with the Camino because there's a lot of little refugios for you if you want to organize your own trip, or hotels every 10, 5, 10, 20 kilometers. So it's really like a jigsaw, you know, you can take the piece together and make your own route, basically, depending on how much you want to walk. And also, if you do without organizing your trip, it's pretty good because you want to walk more, then you walk 5 kilometers more. And you have enough. It's like, even it's midday today, you don't want to walk anymore. You have your book, you find a nice terrace, you're going to have a beer, you're going to have a coffee, and you're going to stay wherever you are at the time you want to stay. And that's a good thing about the Camino. It's very flexible on that. Now, introducing just the refugio versus the hotel. It's not, I don't really want to put them against each other because many people doing the Camino, even if they are independent, they would do refugios most of the day, and they will treat themselves with maybe, you know, they will treat themselves maybe with a nice hotel every now and then, you know, shower, maybe a big parador, you know, 4-star, and then the rest of the day you live on a €3 a day, you know. So there's no rule really, you know. So the refugios, they are generally, you know, they are run by the council, and they are run by volunteers. They are run by volunteers, and they are run with the donation that you will give. So when you're there, they will ask you between 3 and 10 euro. You give the money, and it's really for the running of the refugios. The refugios have been set up by every single little council en route, and it really helps the village to live as well, because when you stop there, you're going to buy food, maybe in a little shop nearby, etc. So it really has created along the Camino a real little, you know, economy of, not a huge economy, but little economy. It's really, really helped the countryside. So some of the refugios are small in those beds, like, you know, 6, 10 beds per room. That's absolutely fine. There is no bed sheet, so you bring your own sleeping bag, or if it's summer, just take a liner, and that's gonna be okay. But some of those refugios, and this one is in Roncesvalles, it's hundreds of beds. There's the same in Léon. It's hundreds of beds, you know. So the equipment for that is obviously earplugs, you know, and maybe tiger balm for, you know, the smell of the socks. But you know, after it depends why you travel and how you travel, you know. It all depends, you know. But it's good fun as well, because when you're in some places like the previous one, there's generally a kitchen where you're gonna cook, and everybody's gonna bring a different thing. So I'll bring the pasta, you bring the sauce, you bring the wine, and we're just gonna all cook together and, you know, make the dish. And the good thing about the Camino is that you're probably gonna meet people that you've met before somewhere. If you do 30 days, you're gonna meet people maybe like after 3 days that you met before. So really create a sort of camaraderie and an impression of déjà vu, you know, oh, I see you, I remember, and it's always a good opportunity to have a beer with someone that you met a few days before. And really you take it easy, you know, as you walk, and it's the good thing about it. Then after you've got hotels, you can have more comfort. A 3-star hotel generally, you know, it's It's between 80 and 100 euro per night with your breakfast. Two-star hotel will be around maybe 60 euro for the night. You can have cheaper accommodation, cheaper hotel, around 30 euro per night as well, with no bathroom inside. You've got a various range of it. There is also what they call Casa Rural, which is agriturismo, the sort of country cottages, like B&B in the countryside. I associate them more with the Blue Book, the sort of big manor house, etc. But at a more reasonable price. It's not 200 euro 80 per night, it's more about 60 or 80 euro per night, or even some bit more fancy, maybe 100 euro. Large garden, swimming pool, and no more than 8 to 10 room maximum. So very little. It's not really boutique, but you've got and people are there. They cook the ingredients that they grow in their own garden, and you participate to all of that. So it's really good. Now, in terms of marking, it's extremely difficult to get lost. Okay. So yes, you can get lost. You can get lost in theory. You can get lost because, well, there is many roads. But when you've got the scallop shell and the arrow, roughly every 100 meters, it's difficult. Like, I got lost once. It's because I was just talking, and the road turned, and I was just following. But after 500 meters, or maybe a little bit more, I just realized, well, I haven't seen an arrow for a long time. So I just sort of retraced my step, and just got back. So I maybe I've lost 1 kilometer, so that's 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer, 1 kilometer. That was really annoying, but that's the only thing that can happen, really. So now I'm coming into the French way now. It's the slideshow of the French way from the beginning to the end, just to give you some ideas, some photographic memories of what you may expect. This is my vision of the Camino. It's not necessarily your vision, and it's not necessarily the truth. It is what I saw on the Camino, okay? You may see different things, but you will see that also. Okay, it's a bit confusing there. Now, this is Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. It's in France. You're in France there. They speak French and not English and not Spanish. They speak French. Well, there's a bit of Spanish going on over there too. But it's a lovely little village, old houses, old church, old bridge, and little terrace. And it's the Basque country, so there is a lot of this festival. There's always something going on, music coming on outside. So it's a really nice place to get into the Camino mood. Also, most of the people would start from there, on their way. So it's a place where everybody's sort of looking at each other, saying, oh, you must be starting or something like that. It's a little bit, you will realize that afterwards, And some people would have come from far away, from Germany, from other parts of France, etc. So it's also a place where some people start, but some people come from far away as well. And then from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, we approach, basically, we are going to go gradually into the mountain, okay? So there is no steepness, okay? You see the beautiful mountain on the background, but there is no steepness into that first day. Many people are afraid and say, well, the crossing of the Pyrenees, that must be terrible. Well, it is long. This first day is 26 kilometers until you arrive in the next village, but it's a gradual walk along roads, countryside roads, quiet countryside road, and footpaths uphill, like that. And you're basically gradually going up, and the mountains, this part of the Pyrenees are relatively roundish. They are not super sheer like the Alps. They're really round, and they're very nice, and to see the views from the top are really, really nice. And I've got a lot of ships everywhere. And it also alternates between the mountains, and as you come down onto Roncesvalles, you are in the wood as well, so gives you a bit of shade in the middle of the day. So if you start, for example, a typical day, you would wake up maybe around 7, have breakfast at 8, and go at 9. or it depends really. That's what I do with my groups, but it really depends on you. You know, you may wake up earlier because you like to walk on the morning, or you may wake up later. But bear in mind, if you start at 9, you finish at 3:34 anyway. I consider an average of 20-22 kilometers per day. That's probably what you're going to do. Between 20 and 25 a day, that's what you're going to do. You start at 9, you're going to finish around 3:30, 4:30. That's your time frame, 9 to 4:30. That includes break in the morning, lunch, break on the afternoon. A lunch is generally 1 hour. You stop, you find a little restaurant. There's a lot of little cafe en route. So you find a place that you like, you're going to have a sandwich, you're going to have a little coffee, a beer, etc. You stop for an hour and then you continue your walk. And then, now where are we? We're in Cebreiro, yeah. So you have Saint-Jean, then you've got Roncesvalles. It's a sort of monastery in the middle of the mountain. It's a hamlet. There is nothing else than a monastery really, and a couple of houses, a couple of farms, but very little. And then you continue when you go down the mountain and you've got a couple of villages like Cebreiro. It's really pretty, really typical Basque, you know, the big stone, the house made of big stone and a lot of flowers. And then it's roughly 3 days after you start, really, 3 walking days. So that's the end of the 3rd walking day, generally. And you arrive in Pamplona. That's the famous city of the Run of the Bull. Like, you know, in July during Saint Fermin, around the 9, you know, people just gather in the street and just, you know, well, you probably know that anyway. And there's a lot of other festivals, you know, Christian or related as well, where there's tons of people outside. So what you can do is research your events and festival on the Camino de Santiago to plan your walk. That's also another idea, because in Spain they're really, really good. Now, after Pamplona, you've got a couple of days still in Navarra. You've got a couple of days in Navarra, and this is Puente de la Reina. So it's a typical little village that you're going to cross, you know, with, you know, typical footbridge. Then we've got Estella. They're really pleasant, those villages, because when you come inside, you really feel like you were like 100 to 200 years ago, you know. There's no traffic, and generally, you know, it's how it happened. There's terraces and little shops and things, and it's really, really pleasant. So when you finish your walk and it's 4 o'clock on the afternoon, you take a book, or you just go, you chat with your friend, or you meet people that you met before. And we just passed Pamplona. We arrived in Logroño, the capital of the Rioja Wine Region, and we are in the wine vineyard for a few days. And speaking about vineyards, you're crossing a very famous vineyard on the Camino called Irache. And this is a free wine fountain where you can get a glass of wine on the Camino. It's free for the pilgrim, you know. So it's not really well known here, because I actually could never buy wine of Irache in Ireland. But on the Camino, from the beginning to the end, you're gonna hear about this. People think it's a myth until you actually stand in front of it. After like 5 hours walking, you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant, you know. Now, we arrive in Logroño. Logroño is the heart of the wine region of Rioja, and you've got all those vineyards around, like Marqués de Riscal and other that I forgot now. But all the wine of Spain, many of the wine of Spain that you buy in O'Brien or your local shop would be from this area. So I have many clients actually asking for extra night in Marqués de Riscal or there and there and there. It's you know, you can walk for a week, for example, Pamplona, Logroño, and just have a few days to just explore the region, go for wine testing, go for you know, self-drive. You rent a car and you go around. It's a good place. And then we just continue on our way to Burgos. and it becomes gradually flatter, okay? So you've got the Pyrenees at the beginning, we're up to Pamplona, and then you've got rolling hills, the vineyard of Logroño. Then you make your way to Burgos and it becomes flatter, and you're getting altitude as well. But you may not realize, but in the center of Spain is a sort of plateau called Meseta, and you're around 900 meter altitude already, you know. So you are in the Pyrenees the crossing is about 1,400 meter. You come down into, you know, Pamplona, and after Logroño, maybe around 400, and then you go up to 800 meter. If you look for feet, you multiply by 3, okay? So you arrive, and between Logroño and Burgos, there's a couple of interesting villages, including this one, Santo Domingo de la Calzada, and in Santo Domingo, and it's really amazing, and you've got a cathedral, you've got several little churches. The historic center it's quite large for a town of this size, and there's also two paradors, and there's a lot to see, a lot to wander around in this village. And have we got Burgos? Yes, we've got Burgos. A few days later, it's like 3 walking days after. And Burgos is renowned for 2 things. The cathedral, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Cathedral, really impressive and really beautiful. And for Peter Murta, the writer of Buen Camino, he said it's too much, you know. He preferred Léon, the Cathedral of Léon. And the second thing that's interesting in Burgos, it's the story of El Cid, the Cid. It's the city of the Cid, so they're really proud of that. They say that the blood of the Cid is running through their vein, you know. So they consider themselves the true blood of Spain, you know. And then we arrive lovely. Now it starts to be sort of flatter. You've got a couple of hills here and there. And all the hills, of course, have a castle, you know, in the old days to protect Spain, you know, the Christian settlement of Spain. And you have Castro Geliz. It's one of the village at the end of the Meseta. It's 2 days walking after Burgos. And then we arrive in the Meseta. You are at 800 meters, and you've got Meseta roughly 10 days, maybe a little bit less, maybe 8 days. You've got 100 kilometers of Meseta. The Meseta is the central plateau of Spain. It's really the breadbasket of Spain. That's where, you know, all the crop come from. And it's flat. So you've got to understand as well that you're in a different mood. If you do all the Camino, you start the Camino, you're excited, you do the Pyrenees, and then after what happens is after a week, you're gonna be like, after the Pyrenees, after Pamplona, maybe when you arrive in Logroño, you start to be sort of a little bit, why do I'm doing that, you know? It's okay, 1 week was fine, really. And then you enter in your second week, it starts to be difficult, you know? And then it starts to be difficult, you start asking questions, why I'm doing that? And on your third week, you sort of are on the Meseta, and it's like, you're not thinking about walking exactly, you know? You see the kilometer passing, but you really enjoy, you know, the other aspect of the Camino, what's around, the meeting of people, and also you're yourself on a sort of cruise control until you arrive in Santiago, where you sort of, the scenery is going to change very much on the last 200 kilometers, so you're going to enjoy again a lovely scenery. In the middle of the Meseta, it's a town called Sahagún, and in Sahagún there's some unique Romanic churches. It's UNESCO as well, it's worth the trip. So you had like something like 3 days of flatland, 20 kilometers, 60 kilometers of nothing, and you arrive in this town. It's a like little island of interest in the middle of bizarre scenery, and it's quite nice. And then you continue walking on the Meseta, and you arrive in this amazing city of Léon. Used to be the capital of Spain at the time of the Christian king. And Léon is really superb. The night scene is fantastic. The pubs are excellent. The tapas are free and they are huge. And in Léon, you you will have your not the first, but one of the best parador in Spain, and probably actually the second best or the best. You know, it's a 5-star Grand Lux, Grand Luxury, and it's in the city center of Léon. If you watch the Way movie, and that you've probably seen this parador. Then from Léon you start to see the mountain of Léon. That's the pre-mountain of Galicia in front of you. So you start walking, it's still a bit flat after Léon, but you see this scenery in the background until you arrive in Astorga. Astorga, you've got the Episcopal Palace, the Palace of the Bishop has been built by Gaudi. It's interesting. The cathedral beside is really unique and nice. And you're making your way just after Astorga into the mountains, the first range of mountain that you're gonna hit. And it's after, you know, a few days of flat and sort of solitude, coming into the mountains really superb, really. So if you watch the holiday show, the Camino de Santiago, the holiday show, you probably seen some of this scenery because, well, it's partially where it's been shooting. And coming down, you've got 2 days of mountains, basically 2 days, could be taking longer or shorter for you, and you arrive in Ponferrada. It's between 2 ranges of mountains, so you crossed one, and you've got Ponferrada. It's an interesting little town, a little town of around 50,000 inhabitants, so you've got everything. And it's nice to touch base again with civilization. And there is also a very interesting Templar castle to visit. I think it's something like €6 the entrance with the audio guide. And it's a Templar castle, so there's a lot of 13th century stuff. Sorry about that. Leaving Ponferrada, you arrive in the second mountain chain before Galicia. It's actually the entrance of Galicia. It's called Cebreiro. The first village in Galicia, it's the village of Cebreiro. It's a sort of village made of stone house and thatch house on the top of a mountain at 1,100 meters. And you've got incredible view around you. And you make your way through the mountains for another 3 days until you reach the monastery of Samos. Really incredible place. It's a huge monastery, really nice architecture, and inside you can knock and there is some sort of tours made by the fathers. They generally don't do it in English all the time, but you know, people would be here to translate for you. So it's a nice stop en route to the Camino. And then you arrive in so you have the mountain, and like 3 days after the mountain you arrive in Sarria. Sarria is the beginning of the last 100 kilometers of the Camino de Santiago. Sarria is also 50,000 inhabitants, so you're touching base with civilization after Ponferrada again. You've got a lot of... Sarria is not superb, like, it's not really nice, but it's buzzy, it's buzzy, there's a lot of little cafe and restaurant. So if you want to do 1 week in the Camino, you don't really know where to go, you don't really want to touch the mountain at all because you think it's going to be too much for you, and you want to see what's really the Camino, I would recommend to start in Sarria. That's where you're going to have all the social atmosphere. There's a lot of nice accommodation from Sarria to Santiago. Takes you only like 5 or 6 walking days. It's perfect, really, to start the Camino. And Galicia is it's a land very much like West Cork, you know, or you know, some place west of Ireland with you know, roundish hills. This part, for example, you would not do more than 400 meters, 1,200 feet ascent per day. You know, so it's like, you know, walking on the Wicklow Way, for example, without going to the summit of the mountain, you know. So you're still going up and down. But when I say 400 meter ascent and descent, it's through your day, it's 20K. It's not like super steep, you know, and then, you know, difficult. It's just up and down all day. And that's something that really impressed everybody, you know, because the Gallego, the people living in Galicia, they're really big into their seafood, all kind of seafood, you know, razor fish, yeah, and clams and all sorts of fish, etc. Of course, if you like meat, you know, Spaniards love meat, and you will have a lot of meat. But this part, if you like fish, it's a good part. This is called pulpo, you know, and we are in Melide, and this is a place called Agarnacha. It's a restaurant, and they boil the big octopus in water, and they serve it to you with paprika and olive oil, and you take a toothpick, you know, and you eat it. It's very good. But when it's cut, it's nice, you know. You won't bite it like that, you know, obviously. You know, but that's it. So, as I said, you know, it's a 50-50 countryside road and footpaths. Countryside road generally are the place where people go from, you know, where they go to their own farm. There's no traffic on those roads. But you have to bear in mind that when you cross a whole country, you have to take a part of road at one point, you know. You've got 800 kilometers, you cross the whole country. So at one point you will have a little bit of road. And that's a Roman bridge from the 1st century, entering Melide. And then after, you know, as you really go in forest of pine, etc., you've got good views, and then you come down in the valley to some rivers. In terms of food, if you're vegetarian, it's not a problem. There is salad, there is omelette, etc. If you're celiac, it's also possible. They absolutely know. It's celiaco in Spanish. It's not a problem. You just have to let the restaurant or the hotel know before. Just a typical terrace that you have on the Camino de Santiago as you're walking. So you just stop and just, you know, grab a drink and sit down for an hour or a couple of minutes and just relax as you walk. And this is one of the symbols. It's like the Irache, the wine fountain. Everybody talk about that because this is the first point you're going to see Santiago de Compostela. You still have 1 hour walk from this point, but from this place you are higher up than Santiago, and you see already Santiago de Compostela 5 kilometers away. It's called Monte de Gozo. And finally, you arrive, you know, Plaza del Obradorio, Duaro, and you're in front of the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. When you look at the cathedral, you've got the Parador on your left. So you've got the Parador on your left. It's a 5-star that everybody speak about. It's pretty amazing. It's actually a refugio for rich pilgrim at the time, you know. So today a night would be 260 euro if you want to stay there, but it's really, really nice. Also, a trick is that if you wake up very early and you arrive and you knock at the door, if you're one of the 10 first people knocking at the door, you get free breakfast as well. And it's an all-you-can-eat buffet thing like that, you know. So after 30 days, you may have lost 10 kilos, you may be happy to have a big continental or, you know, Irish breakfast, and you have everything. And that's all, really. So thank you very much for coming. And if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer with Paul.
Thank you.
Yes?
When you reach one of the cities, how do you, is it mapped straight through to the cities to start to take through?
Yeah. Guys, if you're cold and if you want to go, just don't hesitate. It's absolutely fine, you know. It's a bit cold tonight. The question was, basically, when you arrive in a city, how do you know where you have to go? First answer is that it is marked. In the city, you don't have the spray with the arrow coming into the city because it's forbidden. But you've got a scallop generally on the floor. It's a metallic scallop or it's you know, bronze on the floor, so you follow it. The second thing is, if you can't find it, you see the cathedral, you go to the cathedral. It's a pilgrimage before all, okay? So you have to go to the cathedral, you go to the city center. If you're lost, you go to the cathedral, that's all. It's very easy for that. You won't be lost. Any other questions? Yes?
What kind of training should you do before you undertake a walk like that?
Okay, regarding the training before you do, well, you have to be sort of fit, okay? After, it depends of what you need to be, okay? For example, through CaminoWays.com, we organize every month, the last Sunday of the month, so we do it this Sunday actually, on Easter Sunday, on the morning, we do a 3 hours walk. If you're confident to do 10 kilometers, you know, at a normal pace, you know, you should be fine. What I recommend is that you try your shoes anyway before you go. You put your shoes, and if you're able to walk every weekend for the, 3 weeks before you go, you should be fine, you know. 10 kilometers is fine. Remember, on the Camino, you will be able to stop every hour of your walk, or even more if you want to. You're not stuck into, I have to do 20K, I'm in the desert, I don't want to stop because I'm going to die, you know? It's difficult. The fitness question is difficult because it's very personal, you know? Yeah, yes?
You start off in Saint-Jean-Pied-Port, as you do the 40 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get to Santiago and you decide that you want to go back.
Yeah.
And now you have to walk back. So,
yeah.
What kind of, is there plenty of public transport, or you get back to them?
Or to go back, like, by public transport. Okay, that's not especially a good idea, because I guess you're saying you want to go back by public transport to Saint-Jean. You've got 800 kilometers, it's complicated. I would say, if you leave your car there, because it's probably what you have in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I would say it's complicated. It will going to take you 14 hours to go back there. So it's possible, but it's going to take you, I would split the trip in 2 or 3 days if you were to do that. Public transport, yes, the train or the bus. Now bear in mind, a flight to Santiago de Compostela, it's from €80 one way. You know, so if you fly, to Biarritz, for example, you fly to Biarritz with Ryanair, you've got a train, it's 1 hour and a half to get to Saint-Jean-Pied-Port, okay? So you're there for dinner at 7 o'clock, 6 or 7 o'clock p.m., okay? And then, so the flight is 1 hour and a half, and the same time to go back to Dublin. So it's easy as well, not to have to take your car if you don't want to. Any other questions? Okay. Well, okay, that's fine. So thank you very much for coming.